Drusilla's fork hit the plate so hard that the sound made people turn. We were at a fancy restaurant, the kind she liked to choose to set a standard. But tonight felt more like a court hearing than a dinner. I sat across from her and my fiancée, Talia, trying to stay calm. "My daughter will not be tied to a man who plays in a garage," Drusilla said. Her voice was sharp, cold, and loud enough for half the room to hear. "She needs a provider, not a dreamer." My chest tightened. I had been working on my logistics AI for months, pouring everything I had into it. It wasn't a hobby. It was my life's work. But I knew Drusilla never understood anything outside her perfect image of success. I looked at Talia, hoping she would speak up for me, even a little. But she kept staring at her plate. A part of me already knew something was wrong. Before anything else went wrong, let me introduce myself. My name is Zane K. I was a 29-year-old software engineer, and yes, I was building an AI in my garage. I believed in it with everything inside me. I believed it would change the world. But that night, sitting at that table, I realized something painful. The two people I loved most didn't believe in me at all. I waited for Talia to say something, anything. A word, a glance, even a small squeeze of my hand. I needed her to show that she stood with me. But she didn't move. Her silence stung worse than her mother's insults. When she finally lifted her eyes, they were empty. Tired. Almost annoyed. That scared me more than Drusilla's anger. "She's right, Zane," Talia said quietly. "I'm tired of waiting. I need a future, not a project." She reached for my hand, slid off the engagement ring, and pushed it across the table toward me. "I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The ring sat there between us, cold and final. I felt something inside me break, not loudly, but in a soft, painful way, like paper tearing. "Talia," I whispered. She didn't look at me again. Drusilla leaned back with a satisfied smile, as if she had just saved her daughter from a tragic mistake. "You'll thank me later," she told her. Then she gave me a look so dismissive it stung. Some men are simply not meant for success. My throat burned, but I refused to let myself fall apart in front of them. I stood up, ring in hand, trying to keep my voice steady. "If this is what you want," I said, "then okay." But inside, I felt myself sinking. I turned to leave, but a chair scraped behind me. Cormac, the quiet brother Talia rarely mentioned, stood up. I always liked him. He was different from the rest of their family. Softer. Smarter in a way no one appreciated. "Talia," he said sharply, "you are making a catastrophic mistake." Drusilla scoffed so loudly the table shook. "Sit down, Cormac. What do you know about success? You spend your life reading books no one cares about." I saw his jaw tighten, but he kept his eyes on his sister. "Zane is building something important. Something real." Drusilla almost laughed. "A garage toy. Don't embarrass yourself." Her words hit both of us at once. I felt humiliation crawl up my neck, but Cormac took the insult like someone used to it, slow, heavy, and bitter. "You always do this," he said to his mother. "You measure everyone with money, titles, and status. But you can't even see genius when it's sitting right in front of you." She waved him off. "Spare me the lecture. You two can be failures together." That word, failures, hung in the air like smoke. Cormac looked at me then, eyes steady, full of something no one else had given me that night, respect. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "For both of them." I nodded, swallowing the hurt. He was the only one who didn't treat me like nothing. I left the restaurant with the ring burning a hole in my palm. Cormac followed me out into the cold night air. I didn't trust my voice enough to speak, so I just leaned against my old car and exhaled slowly. "For what it's worth," Cormac said, stepping beside me. "I meant what I said in there." I nodded, staring at the ground. "Yeah, I read your white paper," he added. "The AI loop you designed, it's revolutionary. Self-correcting, self-optimizing. No one else is doing that." Hearing someone actually understand my work almost made my chest crack open. "Thanks," I murmured. "But it doesn't matter now." "It does," he said firmly. "Talia and my mother, they don't see the future unless it's wrapped in shiny paper. But I do. What you're building, it's worth everything." For a moment, the world went quiet. I didn't feel judged. I didn't feel small. I felt seen. Inside the restaurant, I noticed Talia and Drusilla laughing about something. Maybe about me. Maybe about nothing. But it hurt all the same. Cormac followed my gaze and sighed. They'll regret this, he said. Both of them. I opened my car door. Maybe. Zane, he said before I got in, don't quit. Don't let them be the reason you stop. His words stayed with me long after I drove away. That night, I went back to my garage, my workshop, my world, the place everyone else mocked. I looked around at the tools, the cables, the worn-out desk I once built for Talia when she said she wanted her own space to study. I stared at it for a long time before I took it apart piece by piece. If she wanted a future, I would build mine alone. I used the wood from the desk to construct a new server rack. The rhythm of the hammer and drill helped quiet the storm inside me. I kept telling myself one thing. This wouldn't break me. It would build me. I renamed the project that night. My AI needed a name that meant something deeper than code and wires. Something that reflected rebirth, cycles, and rising again. I called it Ouroboros, the ancient serpent that eats its own tail, creating an endless loop. A symbol of starting over. A symbol of becoming whole again. As the new servers hummed to life, I typed the first command for the updated prototype, feeling something steady grow inside me. Not anger. Not revenge. Focus. If Talia and Drusilla thought I'd never be successful, I would make sure the world proved them wrong. I spent months polishing every detail of Ouroboros. When I finally felt ready, I applied for a slot at a tech incubator known for changing people's lives. They only accepted 30 pitches a year, and somehow I made the list, but I was the last slot on the final day. When I walked into the hall, the investors looked exhausted. Some were checking their watches, others scrolling through emails. I swallowed my nerves and set up my laptop. My entire future was inside that machine. Every line of code. Every night I stayed awake until dawn. Every sacrifice. Let's make this quick, one investor said, rubbing his forehead. I nodded and started the demo. Ouroboros ran through the test scenario, live shipping data across North America. Warehouses, trucks, ports, delays, storms, broken routes. It scanned all of it. Then, in 3 seconds, it built a perfect new logistics map. Zero waste. Zero delays. Every truck, every port, every route aligned like a living system. The room went silent. No one moved. A woman in the front row slowly lowered her glasses. Run that again, she whispered. I did. Same speed. Same flawless result. Phones started coming out. People whispered to each other. Tired eyes turned sharp and focused. One investor leaned forward, his voice low. Zane, do you understand what you've built? For the first time, I let myself hope. Everything changed after that day. In weeks, I found myself in meetings I used to only read about online. Venture capital firms. Tech giants. Logistics corporations. Everyone wanted a piece of Ouroboros. Offers kept rising. Partnerships formed. Doors opened so fast it felt unreal. Within 5 years, Ouroboros systems became the invisible backbone of global trade. Our AI handled the supply chains of entire continents. Every port, every warehouse, every truck, all connected through the system I started in my garage. People called it the mind of modern trade. I became the CEO, but I stayed out of the spotlight. I liked being the brain behind the curtain, not the man in the camera's flash. The world only knew me as ZK, the mysterious founder. The company grew to more than 80 billion in value. I had a team of thousands, and our headquarters stretched across a giant glass campus overlooking the ocean. It was everything I once dreamed of, and more. But even with all the success, something felt unfinished. Ouroboros was too big now. It needed someone who understood ethics, responsibility, and the human side of power. I was an engineer, not a leader of nations. The system needed a conscience. And suddenly, I knew exactly who could give it one. Cormac. For weeks, I thought about him. About the night he defended me when no one else did. About how he understood the heart of my work when everyone mocked it. I realized something simple but important. Cormac wasn't just smart. He was good. And goodness was rare in business. I looked him up online and found him teaching as an adjunct professor at a small community college. He taught ethics, moral philosophy, and logic. The pay was terrible, barely enough to survive. Yet he was still doing the work he believed in. Meanwhile, I heard rumors about his family. Drusilla still treated him like a disappointment. She apparently called him a man who will die with books but no success. Seeing that made something twist inside me. After all these years, they still didn't see his worth. I had an assistant book a private jet. I didn't tell Cormac I was coming. I wanted to see him in his real world, not a staged meeting in a boardroom. The next morning, I stood outside his classroom as students walked out, smiling and thanking him. Then he stepped through the door and froze when he saw me. Cormac blinked at me like he was seeing a ghost. His stack of books slipped from his hands and fell to the floor. A few students turned back to see what happened. I just smiled. "Hey," I said softly. He stared at me for a moment, taking in my suit, the security guard behind me, the quiet confidence I didn't have years ago. "Zane, is that really you?" "Yeah," I said. "Long time." He let out a breath that sounded half shocked, half relieved. "I heard about Ouroboros Systems," he said. "I didn't think the founder could possibly be the same Zane from that night in the restaurant." "It's me," I said. "And I need your help." His eyebrows rose. "My help?" We stepped aside as more students passed. "I built something powerful," I told him. "But power without ethics is dangerous. I need someone who understands people. Someone who knows how decisions affect lives. Someone who can see farther than profit." He looked down at his worn-out shoes. "You want me?" "I don't want you," I said. "I need you." He swallowed hard. "But I'm not a businessman. I've never run anything. You've run minds. Hearts. Ideas. That's more important." Silence stretched between us. Then he whispered, almost afraid to believe it. "What exactly are you offering, Zane?" I didn't waste time. "I want you to be the president of Ouroboros Systems," I said. Cormac's eyes widened so fast it almost made me laugh. "President?" "Zane, stop. That's absurd." "No," I said calmly. "I've made up my mind." He stared at me like I had spoken in another language. "Zane, I teach logic to 19-year-olds for $30,000 a year. I don't know how to run a corporation. I don't know finance. I don't know operations. I have 1,000 MBAs who know finance," I interrupted. "I have algorithms that run operations better than any human. I don't need a manager, Cormac. I need a conscience." I stepped closer. "The company is too efficient. It's becoming a machine that crushes everything in its path. I need someone to tell us when to slow down. Someone to ask should we, instead of can we. You're the only person I know who cares about that." He rubbed a hand over his face, processing it. "You're serious. Dead serious. You run the values. I run the code. We lead together." He looked out the window at the students walking by, a life of struggle he knew well. Then he looked back at me. "If I do this," Cormac said slowly, "I do it my way. Which means no magazines, no galas, no tech celebrity nonsense," he said, his voice firming up. "I watched my mother chase status my whole life. I hate it. If I take this job, I want to be invisible. I want the work to speak, not my face." I smiled. It was exactly the answer I hoped for. "Done," I said. "You'll be a ghost. The world will feel your impact, but they won't know your name." He took a shaky breath, then extended his hand. "Okay," he whispered. "I'll do it." I shook his hand, feeling something settle inside me. The company finally had its conscience. And because he chose to be a ghost, the trap for his family was already being set, without either of us even knowing it yet. Cormac stepped into Ouroboros like he had stepped into another universe. I watched him during his first few days. How he listened, how he questioned, how he thought before speaking. He became the bridge between our powerful AI and the real world. But we quickly realized a problem. The world wanted a face. The media was camping in the lobby. Wall Street wanted interviews. "I'm not doing it," I said. "I'm an engineer, not a mascot." Cormac shook his head. "And I'm not doing it either. I didn't come here to be famous. I came here to work." So, we made a strategic decision. We hired a shield. His name was Julian Thorne, our new chief communications officer. Julian was everything we weren't: loud, photogenic, and in love with the sound of his own voice. We paid him a fortune to wear expensive suits, go on talk shows, and smile for the cameras. The world loved him. They thought Julian was the heart of the company. Meanwhile, the real power stayed in the shadows. On our corporate filings, Cormac was listed. But on our public website, his bio was blank. No photo. No history. Just a title, the president. Because Julian was making all the noise on TV, nobody bothered to dig into who the quiet president was. And because he was a ghost, his family remained completely in the dark. He never called them. He never visited. He knew Drusilla's logic better than anyone. In her world, successful people bragged. If a man was silent, it meant he had nothing. So, he let them believe the silence was shame. He let them imagine he was struggling in a cold apartment. He let their own arrogance write his story for him. He buried himself in the work, becoming the invisible hand guiding the world's supply chain. While Ouroboros grew, another story slowly fell apart in the background. Talia's life. I didn't follow it on purpose. But in business, news travels, and I heard things. She married a man her mother approved of, a trust fund heir who talked big and spent bigger. Their marriage made perfect sense to Drusilla, who only cared about money and status. But the man's family wealth wasn't as secure as it seemed. A market crash hit. Some risky investments collapsed. Lawsuits followed. In less than a year, everything they depended on crumbled. She divorced him. No settlement. No property. Nothing. She moved into a small condo with Drusilla, who also lost a chunk of her retirement in the same crash. They went from fancy brunches to coupon shopping, from bragging to begging. Talia tried applying for jobs, but she had no real skills. Years of chasing status, instead of experience, finally caught up with her. She felt trapped, embarrassed, and scared. But Drusilla never changed. She kept pushing. You need a powerful man. You deserve one. Go find one before it's too late. They were drifting toward me without even knowing it. One morning, Cormac walked into my office holding a slim tablet. He looked troubled. Zane, he said, you're not going to believe what I flagged in the applicant system. He slid the device across my desk. I picked it up, tapped the screen, and froze. Talia. Her picture. Her profile. Her application for one of the highest positions in the entire company. Chief Strategy Officer. She really applied? I asked, stunned. Cormac nodded. She must be desperate. But she clearly has no idea who runs this place. I looked at the cover letter on the screen. It was addressed generically, to the office of the president. She doesn't know it's you, I realized. She thinks she's applying to a title, not a person. Cormac nodded. To her, the president of Ouroboros is just a faceless figure of authority. A checkbook. A status symbol. She sees Julian on TV and probably thinks the president is just another guy like that. I scrolled through her application profile. Most of it was fluff, words dressed to sound important but empty underneath. What do you want to do? I asked. Cormac's face changed. Not angry, just resolved. I want to handle it myself. She'll be walking in blind, I said. She won't know who she's meeting until she walks through the door. Exactly, he said. There was a strange silence between us. Old pain. Old memories. It's time for the truth to meet them in person, he said. Cormac sat across from me in my office, the digital application file still glowing on the large monitor on the wall. You can picture exactly how they put this together, can't you? Cormac asked, leaning back in his chair. I nodded, staring at Talia's name on the screen. Vividly. I bet Drusilla stood right behind her while she typed it, dictating the lies, telling her to change her job titles to sound more expensive. She definitely wrote the cover letter, Cormac agreed. It sounds exactly like her. She told Talia this was her second chance to find a provider. I said, feeling the old bitterness rise and fall. And right now, they're probably sitting by the phone, planning how to spend the salary they haven't earned yet. Cormac let out a dry laugh. And since my name isn't on the website, they're likely fantasizing about who the president is. An older billionaire? A foreign investor? Exactly, I said. They see the salary range, Cormac. They don't see the work. They don't see the company. They just see a ladder back to the high life. Cormac tapped the desk. I checked the external hiring portal to be sure. It's clean. No photo. No name. Just the president. Perfect, I said. To them, you are a blank canvas they can project their greed onto. Cormac's eyes hardened, the look of a man who was done being a victim. Send the invite, I said. If she wants a meeting with the president, she'll get one. He hit send. Let them come, he said quietly. It's time they learned who is actually sitting in the chair. The The morning of the interview, Talia arrived dressed like she was preparing for a magazine cover. From the security feed, I saw her navy suit, her curled hair, the way she checked her reflection in the glass doors. When she walked into the Ouroboros lobby, she faltered. The place looked unreal. Towering glass walls, silent elevators, giant screens showing live logistics maps. Everything felt expensive, modern, untouchable. She was so overwhelmed by the scale of the building that she didn't even look at the donor wall or the founder's plaque near the entrance. She just kept her eyes on the reception desk, too nervous to look around. She signed in. An assistant appeared. "Ms. Talia, the president will see you now." Her heart must have jumped. She followed the assistant into a private elevator that shot upward without a sound. She had no idea she was walking into the past she tried to bury, and it was waiting for her on the top floor. I sat in my private office on the top floor, watching the cars move like ants far below. I wasn't supposed to be part of today's hiring process. I usually let Cormac handle the executive interviews, but this one was different. I watched the live feed from the lobby on my private monitor. Talia stepped in, dressed like she was going to charm a king. She moved with confidence, heels clicking against the marble floor, eyes scanning everything like she already owned it. She believed this moment would change her life. But she had no idea the company she wanted so badly was born the night she left me. Cormac stood ready in the interview room, calm as always. The loop was almost closed. Talia's heels echoed louder as she walked down the long hallway leading to the top floor. Even from the camera feed, I could see the shift in her posture. She was terrified. She had no name to call him, no face to picture. She only knew she was approaching immense power. I stayed silent, letting Cormac run the show. He had earned this moment more than anyone. An assistant greeted Talia and guided her toward the glass office. She stepped inside, smoothing her dress. Cormac stood with his back to the door, hands behind him, looking out at the skyline. He didn't turn around. He didn't rush. He simply waited. "Excuse me, Mr. President," she asked, her voice soft and sweet, uncertain of how to address him. From the camera, I saw the exact second her mask shifted. She felt something was off. The posture of the man at the window, it was familiar, but she still didn't know what was coming. Cormac finally turned around. Even watching through a screen, the moment hit me like a punch. He looked nothing like the failure they used to insult. His suit was sharp, his posture steady. His whole presence carried a calm power most CEOs dream of having. Talia froze. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her eyes widened, searching his face like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. "Cormac," she whispered. He didn't return the smile. He didn't soften. He didn't greet her like family. "It's Mr. Ashford," he said in a calm voice. In a professional setting. The name hit her like a slap. Mr. Ashford. Her hands tightened around her purse. I could almost feel the panic rolling off her through the screen. She looked around the office, trying to process it. He was the president? He was the mystery figure? Cormac motioned toward the chair. "Please, sit." She sat slowly, still staring at him like the world no longer made sense. "How are you here?" she asked. I was meeting the president." "You are," Cormac said coldly. "This is an interview, Talia. Let's keep it professional." He tapped the slim tablet on his desk, swiping through her digital profile with the casual boredom of someone reading a spam email. I leaned back in my chair, watching the monitor, feeling something heavy in my chest. The trap had snapped shut. Talia tried to pull herself together, but her voice shook. "Cormac, I don't understand. You're my brother. Why are you acting like this?" Cormac set the tablet down and folded his hands. "We're not here to talk about family," he said. "We're here to talk about your qualifications." She blinked fast, confused and flustered. I'm an expert in market synergy." Cormac raised an eyebrow. "And what does that mean?" She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. "It means I understand people." He leaned back. "So do most adults. That isn't a skill. That's just being alive." Her cheeks turned red. I could tell she wasn't used to being challenged. She was used to pretending she was important. "Cormac," she said softly, "I'm your sister. Doesn't that mean anything?" He nodded slowly. "It means I remember every word you and Mother said about success. About me. About Zane." She stiffened at my name. Cormac continued, his voice steady, almost gentle. "You both believed money made someone valuable. That degrees only mattered if they earned you praise. That a man in a garage was worthless." She swallowed hard and stared at the table. But here's the truth, Cormac said quietly. The only people in this family who ever built anything real were the ones you called failures. Talia's eyes glistened with panic. Cormac, please. I need this job. You don't understand what life has been like. He didn't blink. I understand more than you think. She took a shaky breath. Mother is sick. We're broke. Everything fell apart. I just need a chance. Cormac's voice stayed calm, but there was steel underneath. Talia, you don't want a job. You want a shortcut. A rescue. She looked up at him, hurt and desperate. Why are you being so cruel? I'm not, he said gently. This is what fairness looks like. He lifted the tablet again, looking at her profile. You're not qualified for any leadership role here. You don't have the training. You don't have the discipline. And you don't have the experience. He placed the tablet down with a soft tap. This company was built on ethics, vision, patience, he said. 3 things you mocked your whole life. Talia's voice cracked. Cormac, I'm your sister. He shook his head. And yet, when you and Mother looked at me, you saw nothing worth respecting. A long, sharp silence filled the room. You are not qualified, he said finally. Not for this job. Not for any job at Ouroboros. He reached for the intercom. Please show Ms. Talia out. The room felt colder when Cormac leaned forward. I watched from my office feed and felt my stomach knot. Talia's hands shook in her lap. Her voice came out thin. I'm a people person. I'm your sister, she said, desperation cracking her words. Cormac didn't soften. He looked at her like a man holding a careful blade. Are you, he asked. You and Mother made it very clear that success was the only value here. You called us failures. Her face went pale. She tried to cover it with a quick smile that didn't reach her eyes. Cormac, please. I need this. Everything's gone. Mother is sick. We have nothing. Your resume is full of words shaped to sound like work. But there is no real experience. No training. No proof you can lead. You want a ladder to climb without learning how to climb. She opened her mouth, then shut it like words were stuck. I could hear Drusilla's voice in my head, the way she used to bend people into rules and roles. Talia's pleading sounded small in the glass room. Talia tried to grab for answers like they were lifelines. She named companies she'd consulted for and meetings she'd led. Each claim thinned under Cormac's questions until it snapped. He asked for specifics, dates, results, people she'd managed. She could not show any. At one point she started to cry. Not loud, not theatrical, just small tears that ran down her face and made her mascara streak. Cormac, I'm desperate, she said. We lost everything. Please, do you have any idea what it's like? Watching the monitor, I felt a ghost of an ache inside me. Old hurt from the night, she pushed the ring away. But Cormac didn't bend. He sat very still. Desperation is real, he said quietly. But we are not a charity. Ouroboros doesn't reward those who lean on others. It rewards those who learn, work, and build. She grasped at his sleeve like a child. Please, you're my brother. Help us. Mother is sick. We have no money. I can learn. Cormac's voice stayed steady. Learning takes time. Fortune does not grant it instantly. You want to be seen as qualified, but you keep asking for shortcuts. An assistant hovered by the doorway, eyes soft with pity. The power in the room shifted. Talia's chest rose and fell like she was trying to find air. She had come with the idea she could charm, yet now charm had nowhere to hide. Then Cormac stood up. He walked slowly toward the window, as if he needed the city view to steady his words. This company was built on the things you all laughed at, he told her. Patience. Ethics. The kind of stubbornness that doesn't bow to applause or status. He turned and faced her like a teacher facing a class. You and Mother mocked the very ideas that saved supply chains, fed cities, and kept hospitals running. You called us failures when we studied, when we worked quietly, when we stayed true to ideas that looked useless to you. Talia's face crumpled. We made mistakes, she whispered. We were wrong. Cormac's voice softened almost imperceptibly. Admitting wrong is a start. But admission is not a job application. It is the beginning of repair. He walked back to his chair and closed his tablet on the table like a closed book. You are not qualified, he said, and the words landed like final gavel strikes. Not for this role. Not for any role that leads or protects people at scale. She looked up at him as if pleading for mercy. His eyes were tired but steady. I am sorry for what happened to you, but I cannot make Ouroboros a bandage for every broken thing. Her shoulders slumped. For a moment the room held only her sobs and the cooling hum of air conditioning. I felt a weight lift from somewhere inside me. The quiet truth had been spoken. Cormac reached for the intercom without a tremor. "Please show Ms. Talia out," he said. The assistant moved forward, gentle but formal. Talia stood slowly, like someone waking from a bad dream. As she walked back through the lobby, dazed and broken, her eyes finally focused on what she had missed when she walked in. The massive, polished metal plaque mounted on the central pillar. The light hit the engraved letters perfectly. Ouroboros Systems. Founded by Zane K. President, Cormac D. Ashford. She stopped dead. She stared at the names. The two men she had dismissed. The two failures, who now controlled the world she wanted to be part of. The name Ashford was carved into the very foundation of the building. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a coincidence. It was permanent. She looked back once, her face pale with realization. Drusilla's arrogance had blinded them, but the plaque told the truth that would haunt them forever. The assistant led her through the lobby. People glanced up, then away. When the door closed behind her, there was no drama, only the small, unbearable thud of an opportunity lost forever. After the door shut, I went down to the office. Cormac was at his desk, loosening his tie like a man who'd finished a long watch. He looked up when I entered. "You good?" I asked. He smiled in a tired way. "Yeah, just closing a loop," he said. We sat for a while, listening to the faint hum of our machines. "She's going to go back to Drusilla," Cormac said quietly. "She's going to have to tell her that the C.D. Ashford on the door really was me, and that the Zane on the building was you." I nodded. They'll have to live with that knowledge every day. That was the real punishment. Not poverty, but the knowledge that they threw away the very success they worshipped. "You were perfect," I told him. "I couldn't have wanted anyone better." He shrugged. "I did what I had to do. Now about that new ethics protocol." We talked late into the afternoon, drafting notes, sketching ideas. The work continued. The mission grew. And the two men who had once been called failures were now partners in something far bigger than any of us had imagined. The loop had closed. The future was ours.